So I would like to call the Board of Education and Business Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, April 26th. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people where we live, learn, and play. We have an agenda for your consideration, and I would ask for a mover to move that, but I would like you to remove 7.2, the item that I've asked staff to move to the next meeting so that we can have a staff report along with it. So is there a mover? Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. The agenda has been moved with that amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of the March 29th Board of Education and Business Committee meeting. Trustee Kimmler, are you moving that? And seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Minutes of the April 14th, 2022 Special Board Education and Business Committee meeting. Who would like to move that? Moved by Trustee Pillsbury, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Nothing from the action lists. For the action list, Mr. Sandquist, no petitions and delegations. So going on to education. Is Brent Ranger in the crowd tonight? From Discovery Elementary. That's a great photo, Brent. Welcome. Your mic's not on, Brent.
There we go. Can you hear me?
We can now, yes.
Great, super. Yeah, that's a picture of my son and I up in Banff, I think. Anyways, I'll jump right into it. I know I only have 10 minutes, so I'll see if I can share screen. And maybe please let me know if you see a document I'm looking for. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
Oh, super. Okay. Haichka, thank you. Aitsquail, good day. And Aikwana Salem Nama. It's good to see everybody. I'd like to dig in with 4 quick anecdotes, stories about our school, and then I'll dig into the meat of our school plans. So with COVID in the last couple of years has been quite challenging for many schools. So how we keep our heads above water is some of these anecdotes I wanted to share. So this year, school-wide, we've been doing some pep rallies outside. We've had monthly pep rallies where entire school goes outside onto the field and participates in a huge event. We've had dance-off competitions, class-by-class tug-of-war, relay races, many other events to engage school spirit and foster a sense of belonging. As part of our school theme of social responsibility and Pink Shirt Day, we created a window, decorations of kindness and anti-bullying all throughout the school, and all of our students signed an anti-bullying pledge, which is about 20 feet long and now resides in our gymnasium for all of our students to be proud of. Our grade 2 class is so heavily involved in the importance of the recycling that their teacher and her students co-created a beautiful mural art piece that combined recycling plastics with Coast Salish nature theme. It was so well done that the Royal BC Museum in Victoria had the art piece on display, and so it's now proudly on display at home of Discovery Elementary. And I would welcome any of our esteemed colleagues this evening to come visit Discovery and take a look at that. I think our students are quite proud of it. A particularly fine example of an individual success story this year, in particular, is we received a grade 4 boy who came to our school from another school this year, and his previous 2 years, he was not able to work in the classroom. 95% of his day was spent in the resource room of previous school. And I'd say due to the diligence of our school-based team, which I'll talk about a little bit later, the importance of our school-based team and the wraparound process we have at Discovery, we created a situation of supports since day 1 this year, and he's been successfully included in the all classroom activities and fully immersed into the classroom and a valued member of our classroom community. So I wanted to start off our school plan with just some personal anecdotes that I think highlight some of the great things about our school. So I'm just going to scroll back and start from the beginning and just kind of go through our document. I won't read all of this, so there's a lot in 10 minutes, but I did want to say that we do embrace the strengths of everybody in our school. Our school-based team, SBT, works together on a weekly basis to determine a plan of supports to ensure students are successful. We pay particular attention to ensure that all students are advocated for with a sense of school community. And this whole wraparound theme is throughout our whole school plan. Our vision: every school, every student, parent, and staff member at Discovery Elementary will strive to be empathetic, considerate, kind to others, self-sufficient, able to work together, be forward-thinking, and yet able to have fun. Our mission at Discovery Elementary is a positive, safe, and diverse community where staff provide an engaging and meaningful learning environment for all learners. The Discovery School community fosters the growth of each child who will be respectful, productive members of the school, of the local, global community, encompassing qualities of the educated citizen. I wanted to dive now into just a little bit more background of the learners at Discovery. Currently, we've got about 402 students this school year, encompassing a wide variety of socioeconomic backgrounds. With the influx of students moving up from Victoria, we've had quite a lot of students move into our area. Most of the students at Discovery are Caucasian, with 10% of our students being of Indigenous ancestry, 9.6% of our students requiring individualized programs, learning assistance, and/or behavioral or emotional support. Some of the qualitative data that we look at throughout the years include the following: DWW, DART, FSA, student learning surveys, report card data. Street data include student observation, anecdotal teacher observations, student surveys, etc. Of note, here's the data regarding our primary readers for 2021. So our early success screening, phonological awareness, you can see grades 1 to 3, we've got a 68% are at the proficient level. Our early success screening for oral language, we've got 80% from grades 1 to 3 are proficient. And reading grade 2 and 3, we're looking at proficiency at 38% and developing at 28%, combined 50-some%. The intermediate grades, we observed the following data. And our DART scores from grades 4 to 7 were at 37% proficiency plus the 46% developing. And in writing, we note for writing proficiencies from grades 2 to 7, 37% proficient and 48% developing. When we're looking at numeracy, I didn't have time to put the numeracy into pie graphs like our previous, but our raw data for numeracy from grades 1 to 7, we range from students that are showing levels of proficiency or extending are noted from 64% up to 93% in numeracy based on report card data. In terms of student engagement and learning, their own learning and report card data, from grades 1 to grade 7, we range from 72% to 89%. And in terms of treating students fairly and respectfully on report card data, we have a range from 69 to 95%, and 95% being in grade 1. So this year, our grade 1 students are really great exemplars in this area. So we have 3 goals in our festival document. And I thought I'd start with our social responsibility is to increase student level of being cooperative, principled, and respectful to others, regardless of differences. Part of the rationale is we believe in building connectedness and promoting supportive and positive behaviors. We're also mindful of ever-increasing access of students have to social media and the role this plays in choice making and ability to navigate negative elements of social media. So some of the structures and strategies that we're using at Discovery is we use a PBS model, positive behavioral support, and teach the behavioral matrix. And so we get our student leaders to demonstrate desired behaviors and spend a lot of time throughout the school having our student leadership role model positive behaviors and actually instructing appropriate behaviors throughout the school. Our school teams also work on self-regulation, and there's 3 main areas that we've been working on. In particular, zones of regulation, growth mindset, and the EASE program. Our school-based team is the hub of our school in a lot of ways, and our school-based team meets weekly with teachers, support staff, parents, and our vulnerable students to ensure that we support our most vulnerable and in-need students. Along with our school-based team, we have outside people that join in as well. So we've got itinerants or Indigenous support workers, school counselor, and other members that parachute into the school-based team as a need arises, and that's typically on a weekly and monthly basis. We also run a school-wide host team system, and the multi-age groups are formed and support positive relationships and camaraderie throughout the school. And we engage in a friendly host league competitions throughout the year to promote unity and cooperation and relationship development. So lots of performance indicators. I'll go on to the second goal, as I'm worried that I'm going to run out of time here. Our second goal is intellectual development and student engagement. And this is, of course, looking at increasing our levels of writing, reading, and proficiency throughout the grades. So of course, part of our rationale for that is literacy is essential for success in almost every area of life. And a well-rounded literacy program incorporates the 5 critical components of literacy, including phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. Discovery is working towards ensuring its program covers all of these areas in a comprehensive way using common language and assessment in line with district literacy initiatives. So we've established this year a core literacy team, which meet regularly to review our current literacy practices at Discovery, build common language and assessment practices, and we liaison with the district literacy team. We're also developing common literacy language, and this entails creating scope and sequence for each grade level around the 5 critical components of literacy. We're also reviewing our resources on a yearly basis, and the team is creating an inventory of resources and working towards revamping our leveled readers, to include these resources in connection to the 5 critical components of reading. A lot of our teachers are taking the core science of reading. And we've got a lot of strategies. I'm not going to read all of them, as you can see them on the screen. We keep looking at all of those and drop ones as we see that aren't having effect with our students and picking up other ones. So we're constantly looking at what strategies have high yield for our students. We're doing some assessment blitzes with our core assessment reading, looking at multi-measured books, and literacy team is performing assessment blitzes to identify specific areas where vulnerable learners are struggling to provide targeted interventions. Performance indicators as listed here, there's at least a dozen of them. Lots are school-wide and district-wide testing. And I don't want to miss time to jump onto our third goal, which is Indigenous ways of knowing. So although we have a smaller population of students that have Indigenous ancestry in our school, we are cognizant of that and want to make sure that we're promoting Indigenous ways school-wide. So I think it's a very important goal. We've got a very strong team in that regard. So we want to increase our understanding and knowledge of Indigenous culture life as we live and work in the Cowichan tribe ancestral territory. So our rationale, of course, is the development of the quintessential document, First Peoples Principles of Learning, ultimately supports the well-being of staff, of self, family, community, land, the spirits, and the ancestors. Learning, of course, is holistic, reflective, experiential, and relational, focused on the connectedness, on reciprocal relationships and sense of place. It's imperative that we honor Indigenous people as we work together for the betterment of our children. So we were quite happy this year to have that huge plaque that's in the front of our building that welcomes all of the people in our building. But some of the structures related to our third goal are to continue to invite and have Indigenous elders and guests come into our school and share the teachings to our students and our staff of the Indigenous cultural practices, to continue to have support and welcome Indigenous educators and Indigenous support workers, working with Charlie and all of the folks in the Indigenous support program, and to work in collaboration with teachers to continue to develop authentic Indigenous learning opportunities, and to continue to access the INED grant, of course, to support our students, and to continue supporting field trips and projects. So some of our performance indicators are increased student understanding of Indigenous ways of life, increased understanding of First Peoples Principles of Learning, and increased appreciation of all cultures. That's about 8 or 9 pages in a nutshell. quite happy to open it up to any questions you might have.
Brent, thank you so much. And thank you actually for starting off with those tales of discovery. My first question is actually to do with those pep rallies. You actually have all 402 students involved.
It is a blast. You should come out and we're having a pep rally. It was supposed to happen today, but we got rained out. And today, each class was supposed to bring up trinkets and objects within the classroom, and they were going to build an on-site art mural by each class, and they were going to judge the art murals and have winners. And it's a whole point system with our different birds of House League. And yeah, we've had class tug of wars. I went against kindergartens, and they beat me solidly. Yeah, that it was a way we wanted to bring back camaraderie and sense of community. And we wanted to do pep rally because it's something that brought everybody together. And the way to do it during COVID was outside in the field with all the kids. And it's been a blast. And I welcome any of our trustees to come down to our next pep rally. It's a lot of fun.
So, Brent, can I ask what day of the month, what day of the week, what hour of the day do you do them?
I will tell you what I'll do. It was supposed to be this afternoon, and our grade 6, 7 leadership teacher organizes the events. And we usually organize it 1 to 2 a month. And the next one that I get, this one that was supposed to happen today, we're going to delay it to another day. I'll send that email out to all of our trustees, and then you'll know the time and the date and the place for our next one, weather permitting, of course. So I'm quite happy to share that. It was today, we got rained out, so you're welcome to come to our next one, and I'll email that to everybody.
Could the presentation, so we can see everybody, be removed from the screen, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't you. Sorry. Any questions, trustees? Brent, thank you very much for sharing your wonderful story. Keep up the good work.
Great. Haichka, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Next up, we have Larry Matton, proposed academies and academy fees. Larry, can you join us?
Larry. Squel, Aquanasilum Nala, Tanaquel. Yes, Stummins. It's a good day. Good to see you all today, and happy Tuesday. Today, I've been asked to come and talk about academies. I do have a presentation PowerPoint, but you know what? I'm just going to talk to the briefing note in the interest of time. You got a very big agenda today, I see. Just kind of hitting a few of the key points in the briefing note there. I'm here to talk about academies at Francis Kelsey. Academies are slowly growing in the Cowichan Valley, quite exciting for our students. These are great opportunities for students to dive in deeper into areas of interest and passion while getting course credit and also enhancing their personal and professional portfolios as well as their resumes. So pretty exciting stuff. And Francis Kelsey has jumped all in, wanting to create 5 academies. Their hockey academy is a rebirth. They did run before COVID, but now the pandemic is coming to an end. They want to start that up again. They're also wanting to start a soccer academy, a trails outdoor academy, a fine arts academy, and a computer studies academy. Now, the Trails Fine Arts and Computer Studies Academy, I'm happy to announce, are all free. They're not going to cost the students anything to participate in these programs. Their hockey and soccer academies do have some marginal fees. They are intro level, kind of come and learn about soccer. Could be students who participated in hockey before, an opportunity to get back into the sport. The fees are $300 per year for 1 course per year for the hockey and $300 for the soccer. There's partnerships that are being formed as well. Hockey program is partnered with Kerry Park Arena. We do have a great joint use agreement with them, so we get a great rate on the ice time there. The soccer program is actually a partnership with a few different organizations, World Cup of Soccer, Fusion Soccer, and Tide Soccer. So the dollars are used to help pay for instructors, coaches to come and work with the students. The Trails Outdoor Academy is in partnership with CVRD, as well as Malahat Nation. And if you haven't been out to see the trails, they have built a number of kilometers of trails out in Cobble Hill area. Quite excited to continue that program. And then really excited about their fine arts program, brand new to the school as well, an opportunity for kids to dive in deeper around drama and fine arts within the school setting. And then the computer studies one is a pretty exciting one too, where they get the chance to, in partnership with VIU and Dual Credit, as well as Apple Canada, these students are going to have the opportunity to take courses at the school, do a dual credit course through VIU, while also getting certification through Apple Canada. So pretty cool opportunity for these kids who are interested in computer programming. Yeah, at the tail end of the briefing note, there is a suggested motion there for you as well.
Thank you, Larry. I have two questions for you. First of all, that must be the most inexpensive hockey academy in British Columbia. How is that possible?
They've got a teacher in the school who can do the hockey with them. And the partnership with Kerry Park is incredible. We get a wicked deal on ice time.
Wow. You may have some students from other districts jumping ship just to take advantage of that. And my second question is, what determines the number of students that are needed to run the academy? What is the minimum level? Yeah,
good question. So their Trail Outdoor Academy is a program that they've had running, but they haven't formalized into academy. That's actually running with up to 200 students in it. It's incredible. These kids are getting out of the schools to participate in this program. I'd say think about class size composition. They're probably shooting for around that 24 mark to 30 mark for these classes. Thinking about ice time and the sports that we're talking about here, ideally soccer would be great to have at least 22 because you can play 11 aside in a game. And then certainly with hockey, when you're talking about shifts, if they're going to be playing games, probably that 25 mark would be ideal, but anywhere from 24 to 30, I think is their target.
Thank you. Any other questions of Larry from trustees? Trustee Doman?
How much are you paying for ice time out there?
Ooh, you're testing me, Trustee Doman. I'd have to ask Jeff on that one. He just told me that they've got a great joint user agreement, probably similar to the one that we've got out in Lake Cowichan, where because the ice isn't being used during the day, we get a really good deal to access that ice. Yeah.
Trustee Croft?
Just finding the button. Thank you. Does Kids Sport or Jumpstart, or are there any other folks around to help with academy fees? Do we qualify for that kind of support for our kids?
Yeah, good question, Trustee Croft. In the briefing note, I do highlight that's Jumpstart and Kids Sport are tapped into for kids who can't afford. And quite honestly, you talk to Mr. Rowan out there, and any kid who can afford and really wants to participate, they do everything they can to make it happen. They'll waive fees as needed. Yeah, definitely. And I do know that they sometimes tap into other nonprofit organizations, like the Rotary's pretty supportive of these types of programs, for example. Yeah.
Thank you. And is it a follow-up, if I may? Are the lines of communication pretty clear so that people know that that kind of support is there, and how to get the application and who to talk to and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I believe it's on their application form for the program, but I'll certainly follow up and make sure that it is if it isn't.
Thanks so much.
Trustee Doman?
How do we expand some of these offerings to some of our other high schools?
Yeah, good question, Trustee Doman. I opened it up to all of our schools to think about how to creatively create some of these academy programs within their schools, and they're thinking about that and how they can pull that together for next year. So stay tuned. Hopefully in the fall and into next spring, you'll see some more starting to blossom in some of our other schools. Yeah. I'll keep nudging.
Seeing no more questions from the trustees. On page 14 of your agenda, there are two motions for your consideration. The first one is asking for direction to the board recommendation to the board for a Trails Outdoor Academy, a Fine Arts Academy, and a Computer Studies Academy at Francis Kelsey. Trustee Doman, you're moving that.
Yes.
Trustee DeGroot is seconding. Any discussion on those 3 academies for Francis Kelsey? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. So the second motion is to do with the reestablishing of the Hockey Academy at the end, the Soccer Academy at Francis Kelsey School with a very modest fee of $300. Seconded by, first moved by Trustee Doman, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Nevin.
It's up, Gov. It was.
Moving on to out of school care. Associate Superintendent Cheryl Cruz.
Hi, I'm really happy to be talking to you today about the pilot out of school care program at Bench. We've come a really long ways in just under a year. It's very exciting. So to begin with, I'd like to just give some background context and then move into the update if I can, before we move into any recommendations. So as a board, you're aware that the government is moving towards building an inclusive and universal childcare system in BC, and the responsive and legislative authority for childcare from the Ministry of Children and Family Development has been moved to the Ministry of Education. The School Act was also amended in March of 2020 to make it easier for boards of education to deliver licensed before and after school care for students. And this legislation puts into the School Act for the first time the recognition that school boards can directly operate before and after school care. And it allows boards to charge fees to families on a cost recovery basis when the board is both the licensee and the provider of the childcare service. There's also growing consensus in terms of around the concept and direction of boards of education creating and operating before and after school care spaces within their elementary schools where possible, to really help to create that seamless care for students. And then and you knowing all of this we're extremely supportive, and last June approved an out of school care program pilot at Bench Elementary. And so I'd like to just give a little bit of an update as to where we're at. So this program is operated by the school district and by school district employees. It's been in operation since October last year with CUPE members performing the before and after school care. This program is shared between 2 EAs, one starting their day early at 7:30 to open the program. And then when the bell goes, they move into their regular EA duties for the rest of their day, which ends a little bit earlier. And then the second EA starts partway through the day and they are doing their EA duties. And then when the bell goes, they transition to run the after school portion of the program, which ends at 5:30 for the students, but 6 o'clock for that particular EA so they can continue to prep for the next day. The out of school program is currently running at capacity in the afternoon with 12 students, and in the morning they have 5 students. So they've really noticed that the majority of the demographics at Bench really want the after school care as opposed to the morning care. There's currently a wait list of 7 students for the program for this year, should space come available. And there's another 3 to 4 students on the wait list for next year, should the program continue on. The program is operated on a cost recovery budget as per School Act guidelines. The revenue to operate the program is generated through both parent fees and ministry funding. So we do get childcare operating funding, et cetera, to support the running of the program. So the projected revenue for the program right now sits at just over $40,000, and the projected expenses are sitting at just over $39,000. So you can see we are certainly working or running within a cost recovery budget. Currently, our fees are slightly under those in the surrounding areas. We charge $13.50 a day for the after-school care, and nearby centers charge between $16 and $20 a day for the after-school care, just so that you have that, that bit of a comparison. And so should the program move forward, a year-end review of the budget and the costs associated with the program will need to be completed so that we can determine what those fees need to be. And we also need to take into consideration, I think there was conversation around, wear and tear, that type of a thing. Are we adding any of those components into, into the fees to help offset some of those? So those are all considerations that we'd have to look at for next year should we move forward. The principal at Bench has played an integral role in the out-of-school program and has stated that the program has been an absolute success. He also added that it's an affordable, convenient option when childcare spots are extremely difficult to find, and that parents are comforted by the fact that the adults who provide the care are also part of the school community, and that their principal and vice principal are overseeing the program. He sincerely believes that it is a valuable addition to his school community, and he's happy to be providing this invaluable service. We also did a survey of the parents involved in the program just to get their feedback, and the results echo that of the principal's statements. Parents agreed 100% that the program was meeting their needs. When asked what they liked best about the program, one of the parents stated, "Our son is cared for, happy, and busy until we're able to collect him at the end of the day. It has enabled our family to function better and has lowered our stress levels knowing he's safe and in a structured environment." Another parent commented, "We like the wonderful stories my child brings home and the friends that he makes." Each of the parents stated that they would continue to use the program next year and recommended that the program not only continue at Bench, but be provided at other schools as well. So the out-of-school program has been well received at Bench and has been a successful pilot overall. The ministry both encourages and supports boards of education in creating and operating before and after school care spaces within their elementary schools where possible in order to provide seamless care for families. And it's clear that there is a need for this type of programming and supports throughout our community. So it's hopeful that we'll be able to grow the program or continue it next year. Questions?
Cheryl, what an exceptional report and what an incredible testimony to all the staff and that were involved in providing an exceptional service to the community, to the families, to the children. Wow. Questions?
Thank you.
Trustee Croft.
Well, just what Rob said. He's sort of gone from zero to amazing in record time. It's just so lovely. So with now that we're, childcare has moved over to the Ministry of Education, is there a role for the board as a governance body to be regularly looking at reports or regularly taking the finances? I'm just wondering if, in a nonprofit childcare, right, there is a board, so they would be looking at all that stuff every year. So what's our role here, or do we have one?
That is a great question. And I'm wondering, I'm just looking at Jason. It's new territory.
Okay. So so when I'm back on the committee and you guys are meeting at a time, maybe would it be all right if I bring it up then? Would that be the better
Absolutely.
place? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, good. Thank you.
Any other questions of Cheryl at this time? Cheryl, it's pretty rare that you get 100% endorsement from all parties. That's
well, and to be mindful, it was just a small smattering of parents because it's just the parents who are involved in the program.
No, that's
yeah.
what I'm talking about. It's you usually have one outlier, or well, it could be better, but anyway, well done. So trustees, you have two motions for your consideration. The first one is that we recommend that the program continues, the out-of-school program continues at Bench Elementary. Trustee DeGroot, Trustee Croft. Just before I call, we actually started a pilot last year. Mr. Sanquist, do we not actually have to dissolve the pilot? Or does this motion actually automatically dissolve the pilot?
This motion makes the program continuing and dissolves the pilot.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried. Okay, there's a second motion for your consideration that approves the expanding of the out-of-school program with other elementary schools for next year. Trustee Thorne, Trustee DeGroot, any questions or discussions on that motion? And this wouldn't be on a pilot basis, correct?
Correct.
Okay, calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank
Aichka.
you. Okay, try and beat that one, Mr. Sanquest. You're up next. Budget
Challenge accepted. We will. It's been 12 days since this committee has met on budget, but members of the committee have been engaging. We had an advisory committee meeting last week. There was a public meeting that was called and held. Unfortunately, we did not have attendance. We also have the survey results now here for the board. So I want to invite Mike Russell in to first review the survey, and then I'll move into my budget presentation.
Right, Squale CM. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to go over the budget results from our survey that we had out here. So let me share my screen and I'll bring that up. So these are the results from the 2022-2023 budget survey that the board put out. It started on April 1st and went till April 17th. This year, like other years, we had just over 100 respondents. This year was 125 respondents to our survey, which keeps with the theme. Last year was 136, the year before was 108. And this is just part of the board's public outreach and partner outreach for the budget development for this year. So we'll start off by having people self-identify how they are involved with the school district and how they work with our budget. So respondents to this part could identify multiple things. So they could be a student and a community member. They could be a parent and grandparent, a guardian and a staff member. So most people identified, 53% identified as parent, guardian, or grandparent, with the next being staff at 44%. And again, those could be the same. There could be people that are both identify as both of those. Now, when the board set out to do the new strategic plan, we did such a fulsome engagement. We asked every parent in the district, we asked all the students, community leaders, we asked the general public. So we really had a great engagement that accompanied the development of the strategic plan. So in that, the board has gone back to the public every year and asked where in amongst those priorities of the board, they want to focus under each of those. So for the first one, when we look at learning, so ensuring voice and choice for every learner, what we want to do, what we've asked is for them to rank the three, or to vote on the three highlights, and to find out which one that the public thinks that we should spend or invest in most. So for this year, it's focusing on applied learning and authentic real world learning experiences, which we did hear very strongly during the development of the plan. So things like, how do you do your taxes? I remember being out at a story where they were teaching kids how to change a tire on a car. So those sorts of things is what we've focused on and what we see for authentic real world learning experiences. In the second one, we looked at Indigenous ways of knowing, and we asked the public, of the 4 priorities, which one should we focus on most? And this one was creating safe, flexible, and culturally responsive learning environments. And that was about 56% of the respondents. Again, respondents could select 2 of these answers. So the next most selected one was deepening our understanding of the environmental stewardship, place-based historical knowledge, language, and culture. And that was 40%. When we looked at our culture of care priority, and you'll see in the comments later, this priority is very, very popular with people and lots of comments around it. This one was definitely taken, when people looked at this, they really went for creating a healthy work and school environments that promote wellness, which was 54%. And the next was enhancing mental health opportunities and partnerships that support well-being, with about 43%. And then under our future focus systems, really looking in that all decisions are evidence-based, child-focused, and culturally and environmentally responsive was by far the winner. And that one was out front by about 68%. And then this year, the board asked a question about budget surplus. And we know we do have a bit of a surplus going into this year that is above the 1 to 3% reserve that the board has in their bylaw. And so we asked the public, what do you think we should do with that surplus? And 42% said utilize it to offset funding shortfalls over the next 3 years, as identified in the 3-year financial plan. And I know that Mr. Sandquist has gone over that plan numerous times. But under this, we also did ask folks for comments about what they were looking for in terms of other things we could spend the money on. So that's this big other block here. 34% approximately left comments and talked about this. We do have this in a word cloud here, and I do have all the comments listed, but really what we saw in this and echoed later on is investing in mental health supports and supports for diverse learners. That was a common theme in the responses to this survey, and definitely under the budget surplus question here. It's like I said, we do have all the responses listed here that the board can look at. And then finally, question 7 was other information. So we asked people, what other information do you think the board should know while they're developing their survey? Again, a word cloud, it's funny because it comes up pretty much the same with investing in sports for students and for staff, mental health supports, so all of that. And that is echoed in all the comments that are listed through here as well. And other than that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions, Trustee Thorne?
Yes, I want to thank you for that report, and I do believe the people are correct. We need to invest something into wellness for our students and staff because we've all gone through something very different, and I don't know that we're putting enough. I don't know what the budget is, but I am hoping that we can increase it a little. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Thorne. Any other comments or questions of Mike at this time? Okay, thanks, Mike. Going back to Jason.
Thank you. In reviewing the survey results in advance of this presentation, in considering the liaison feedback that the board had in their private meetings with the partners, we've tried to incorporate some of those themes into a budget presentation, into a potential balanced budget. There were millions of dollars of asks. So it's difficult to do that, to recognize all of those needs and requests in a time when we're looking to balance a budget that's going to require surplus to balance. So just wanted to sort of start with that, and now I'll move into the budget presentation. So I'm going to share my screen, and it's a PowerPoint, and I'm going to walk through a potential balance budget scenario. Okay, I'm assuming you're all seeing my screen. And as soon as I swap it, you get a full screen. There we go. So here we are today, after having 2 BEBC meetings, an advisory committee meeting, a public meeting, a budget survey, and 7 liaison meetings. And I'm going to walk through the progress to date. We always begin by looking at our budget guiding principles that have been adopted by the board. and they have been designed to align to the board's strategic priorities and to new guidelines around long-term planning that the ministry is requiring boards to consider. So the budget must properly fund the priorities of the strategic plan. It's developed as a mechanism to aid in reconciliation, accounts for uncertainties of the global COVID-19 pandemic, and we're all optimistic that those uncertainties will begin to fade. Must be developed in a transparent process with public and partner input through communication, consultation, and reporting back. Is developed on the principle of equity, meets our regulatory requirements of School Act compliance, which means it must be balanced. There are collective agreement considerations, and there are board policy. New is to consider multi-year implications of decisions, such as sustainability, balances short-term and long-term priorities, and maintains an appropriate contingency balance, which remains in policy at 1% to 3% of the operating budget. The 4 priorities are learning, Indigenous ways of knowing, culture, care, and future-focused systems. Many of these overlap. I have in the presentation tried to align some of the options to the strategic priorities. Of course, many of them may be more than one. We've been talking this year about inflation. Inflation has significantly impacted supply levels, costs, really impacted benefit rates, both CPP, EI, and WorkSafe, but really around our health benefits. As we, I will say, the first year of the pandemic was a year when very few people utilized their benefits, such as attending the dentist or physiotherapy or massage therapist. And that resulted in a reduced rate for this past year. Well, that reduced rate now comes to an end, and it's anticipated that these benefits will be used at a rate higher than pre-pandemic. So far, the board has been actively engaging the community to collect information. They have established the 2020, or you have established the 2020-22-2023 budget guiding principles. You'll be considering the strategic plan priorities when we've been discussing options. There wasn't a survey issued, and you just reviewed those 125 responses. You held a liaison meeting with rights holders, and then you held the liaison meetings with DSAC, the CVTF, the USW, CUPE, Principal Vice Principals Association, and DPAC. And there have been both regular and special board education and business committee meetings and information presented at the regular board meeting. On February 22nd, at the regular BEBC, you reviewed the enrollment estimate for 2022-2023. You saw a preliminary budget report, which contained assumptions and risk factors. And you considered a draft of the 2022-2023 budget guiding principles. You then met on March 1st, and you adopted those budget guiding principles. Following spring break, we had the funding announcement, and you held the regular BEBC meeting right after, I think 2 days after spring break, and we reviewed the ministry funding. And that's when we began to dig deep into the inflationary pressures that were affecting this budget. From there, knowing the funding, knowing the inflationary pressures, we were able to identify an opening budget position. You then met again on April 14th at a special BEBC meeting. There was an updated year-end surplus projection that included an update on the funding based on the February enrollment count that we just had. We also had to update the opening budget position based on new information that had come to light, such as the casual sick leave and the addition of an early years manager decision of the board. There were a list of options to reduce the shortfall, and there were a list of options to add to the shortfall. And we reviewed information on the 2 primary special purpose funds. So those 2 primary special purpose funds were the Classroom Enhancement Fund, and they were the Community Link Fund. Then on April 19th, the board went to the advisory committee and reviewed the budget options and discussed the use of surplus. There was a public meeting held shortly after. Unfortunately, we did not have attendance. So at this meeting, there is an updated list of options and a possible balanced budget. We're to try to align those options to the board's strategic priorities and then invite trustees to provide feedback and recommendations. And here's where we'll start. So this is a summary of the opening position. So when we first came to the board or the BEBC on March 29th, we had a shortfall of 2.4 million. That was updated at April 14th to a shortfall of 2.9 million based on those two factors I just mentioned, the Employment Standards Act, the introduction of 5 days of casual sick leave at a cost of $400,000, and an early years manager position, which we're estimating with benefits to cost $104,073. Options that had been considered in the previous presentation were the use of restricted surplus. So grabbing the unrestricted surplus and restricting $2 million of it to assist with the balancing. We have updated the interest revenue. As we've been working through the budget process, the Bank of Canada has adjusted the base lending rate by 0.75%, 0.25% in March, and a further 0.5% in April. It's expected to go up again in June, but we have not factored in that June adjustment. We're just looking at what we think the existing changes are going to do to the interest revenue that the board is going to receive. So that is going to add $140,000 to interest revenue. Over the last couple of years, we have been surplusing in the CUPE accounts, and it's not due to a lack of hiring the individuals. It's the fact that we believe we've been over budgeting within the formula that we use to calculate the CUPE budgets for all the members that aren't full-time. So this is not a reduction to any membership or any hours that anybody works. We just believe we put too much aside for each position that we have, FTE that we have in the budget. And that's an adjustment that we're recommending. As we move down the list, you saw this one before, benefit premium holiday. It's a one-time savings. We have received a notification that the USW premiums that were paid for last year were I'll say slightly overpaid because they're a lot more than $50,000 a year, but this should give us about a 2-month premium holiday of not having to pay premiums likely in the months of August and September. We have seen the international student program rebound to close to pre-pandemic levels and believe we can make an adjustment to that revenue from what we had originally presented of 2 million to bring that to 2.1 million. And we put that as a learning strategic plan objective. We are aware that through the consultation that there was much support for continuing with the hand washing and hand sanitizer stations that are currently in the schools, even post-COVID. Everybody felt that was good practice to continue to encourage kids to have a higher level of hand hygiene. So we have included $50,000 here, but also looking at taking that $50,000 from additional surplus. We heard, again, many times, almost from every liaison and throughout the survey, that mental health supports were very, very important. Currently, the board will receive $52,000 from the Ministry of Education next year for mental health supports, specifically in a special purpose grant. This current year, there was an additional $70,000 received on a one-time basis as a provincial COVID grant. So this recommendation continues that program that the board received and approved at an earlier board meeting this year. We would suggest taking that from additional surplus. Another item that came up through consultation was around student assessments and the need to improve, especially for those families that aren't able to do that privately. So we have put in $40,000 and suggesting taking that $40,000 from surplus. Data, student data, and the ability to utilize student data and interpret student data and communicate student data to both parents and teachers and the ministry requires some coordination, and a technology dashboard has been recommended at a cost of $25,000 to assist with that. Under technology installation, This is an item that's no longer able to be funded from the annual facilities grant. And either we reduce the amount of technology that we put in classrooms, or we find funding to ensure that those monitors and equipment are installed properly. The next item here was an item that was just omitted in the first draft, and it has revenue and it has expenditures that match. It is around the student grants that come through the industry training authority. So we have put 16,000 in revenue and 16,000 in expenditures to catch up on that item. The next item that we have here is around averaging the teacher salary. So every year we begin our budget process by taking everybody that we currently have employed and we roll them into the next year, and then we add increments to those staff that are going to go up through the pay bands over the year. We know that we can confidently assume that staff will retire and staff will potentially go off on leave and be replaced by less expensive newer teachers. So we believe we can make an adjustment of $200,000 to balance off our average teacher salary. And continue to move along here. There's a request for a transportation route addition. So this is a minor adjustment to a route to accommodate families next year, $10,608. And then we have website update under communications. So in order to improve our communications, make information more accessible, make information more easy to upload, we're recommending a 2-year plan that would require $30,000 to update the website over those 2 years. And then the next item, the last item here under the non-staffing adjustments is absenteeism replacements. This was a budget that we increased by $150,000 when the Omicron wave hit the school district in January and February. So it was a response to increased absenteeism that we saw in that time period. And we believe that with continuing on with our absence management program and our health and wellness coordinator work, that we can reduce that back down and leave just an additional $50,000 in the budget for absenteeism replacement next year. So as we work through that, we've made an adjustment of $2.1 million to surplus, and we've made a number of expenditure adjustments, and this would leave us with a budget shortfall of about $136,000. So getting pretty close to balanced, and trying to do so in a way that accomplishes the feedback. But as I mentioned at the beginning, there were millions of dollars worth of requests. As we move down the list into staffing adjustments, you see an in and out there. One is for a literacy teacher, which supports the learning. This was two teachers that were funded through funding that had come from the province for COVID, and that funding has now disappeared. So we're wanting to maintain that program. And this would split the literacy teachers over both Coheman and Alexander. To do so, we're just recommending an existing teacher within the budget be reallocated to the literacy program. And then the next item down is we actually are recommending one FTE staffing reduction, and it likely isn't a specific a position, but it's a reduction that we think we can make to the overall teacher FTE and still come in within our existing budget. So when we make those minor adjustments, we're now short $71,000. And the proposal would be to take that additional amount from surplus. So the total draw on surplus would now be 2.2 million. And before I stop sharing and go to the screen, I just would like to show you how that looks on the surplus. So a couple of items that haven't made the initial budget here. One is principal, vice principal, and exempt compensation adjustment. So you saw a figure for that earlier. There has been no direction yet from government. It comes from the Public Sector Employers Council, and it's likely not to come for some time. It will be based on the collective bargaining process that's currently underway provincially with all groups, and we will need to wait until that has been announced. So at this point, we will look at that at a later date when we know what that may be. And the other item is around automated dispatch. And there are some collective agreement provisions that need to be respected that are within the CUPE collective agreement. And as this is a cost neutral item, it could be looked at any time in the budget year. So looking at surplus, So we had shown you earlier that we had an unrestricted surplus of just under 3.3 million from the current year. We're projecting that this year ends with another 1.5, and that would leave $4.8 million available. So thinking on a long-term basis, so sustainability is one of the board's strategic priorities. Taking that 2.2 million that I've shown would be used to balance the budget, that would leave a remaining surplus of 2.5, which would help out in the next couple of years. That is 2.72% of budget, and the board's policy is to maintain between 1% and 3%. So I'm just going to stop sharing here and see if there's any questions, and hopefully I can answer them.
Nice if I turn my mic on. Thank you, Jason. Any questions of the trustees at this time? Jason, that has no reflection on the quality of your presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to share screen again. I have a little bit more here. Okay. Is that not moving? Okay. There's another item that came up through the consultations, and it is around the requests that have come through for custodial equipment replacement. So maintaining the plan that has ended this year. Previous to this year, the board had a 5-year plan. The reason I show you this slide is to show you that we have local capital of $625,000 that is not allocated. So this is where I would be recommending that we take that plan from. And so I just mentioned we have a 5-year custodial equipment replacement plan. We did it once, and we have successfully replaced, over half of the auto scrubbers through that plan. But the request is to continue on, and it looks like this. So you can see the auto scrubber equipment, the year that they wish to purchase, the quantity, and how that adds up over time. So over a 5-year program. There's also the addition of a Chariot, which is a ride-on auto scrubber, but the total would be $95,000 over 5 years. So that's an item that we would be recommending consideration of continuing that plan and using local capital dollars for that. And now I'd like to invite feedback from trustees on the options. And if there's anything that you feel that we've missed and should be including, this would be a great time to bring that forward.
Mr. Senquist, I'd like to start a question off with the last comment about the custodial equipment. And I'm not sure why it's a matter of debate actually even comes to this table. If it is operational, and if there is a plan that we've approved for maintaining the equipment in a reasonable and timely manner, why are we even contemplating it as a debatable topic?
Yeah, it is coming from a budget that needs approval. You did approve it once 5 years ago, and we've carried it forward every year from that one approval. That plan has ended. And so we're bringing forward a plan again for the next 5 years. And because it does require board approval to access local capital, that's why it's here.
And so if we approve it this time, we don't have to look at it for 5 years?
Correct.
Nice. Okay, got it. Trustee Thorne.
I'd like to motion that we approve it for the next 5 years on the janitorial.
Mr. Senquist, is that appropriate to have a separate motion like that?
Yes, yes.
Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Croft.
No, not seconded.
Trustee Spilsbury seconding it. Okay, debate on the motion. Trustee Croft, and then Trustee Kimler.
Aren't we in a VEBC meeting? Can we not only recommend that it go to the board for approval?
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, that's not what I heard. Thank you.
We can't do anything else. That's apologize.
This is the wording. I'm paying attention. I'm just showing off. Okay.
Okay. Trustee Kimler.
Just curious, that handles the auto scrubbers. Is there a little more we should put in there? Was there other pieces of equipment that are falling apart as well? Or is that really our main concern right now?
Yeah, these are the significant items that cost about $5,000 plus per unit. And more of the smaller items, they get handled out of the existing custodial supply budget. So you wouldn't see those.
Okay.
You guys, this is exciting stuff. 5-year plan for scrubbers. Important decision to, just get it done. Okay, this is a recommendation to the board. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Any other questions? Trustee Kemler, did you want to say your hand was up earlier? No, okay, Trustee Croft.
Thank you. So I've been thinking more about the whole mental health thing, and Jason, thank you for highlighting that and directing some funding towards it. I've also been thinking about our partner comments, who are very consistent about welcoming communities and culture of care. And I was wondering if the staff could take a look at making funds available to each school that they could use towards rebuilding their communities, because we're returning from COVID and we're restructuring and we need new cohesive matters. To make some funding available to each district school for schools to put toward community building, welcoming, celebration, joy, and similar themes. And if staff might take a look at that and then get back to us in time to decide whether or not that might make up part of the budget. Not looking for extra money, just looking for deploying what we've got. Can I make that a motion?
You can, but can you shorten it up?
That's usually your job, Rob. Okay, direct staff to look at making funds available through the 22-23 budget, to making those funds available to each school in the district. Then schools can put that money towards community building, welcoming, celebration, joy, and similar themes.
Okay, this is a little longer than I wanted, but I can accept that.
Jason's on it. Jason's on it.
Is there a seconder for that motion?
Oh, come on, guys. It's just a question.
That's it. Trustee Kemmler seconding. So can I ask you to, rather than direct staff, just request staff? They're exploring an opportunity. That's what you're asking them to do?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Trustee Spilsbury.
Well, I'd just like staff to comment because as far as I remember, the mental health plan that the board has endorsed includes an aspect of what Trustee Croft is hoping for. I believe it's a little bit different in that schools apply for that funding. They are not automatically given a funding amount, but I wonder if staff could comment.
Superintendent Gray.
I can certainly comment on the comprehensive mental health plan that we have in existence. So at each of our elementary schools, they're certainly looking at social emotional opportunities that they can actually work on. And I think we have 5 schools who have piloted such a thing this year, and there's going to be more next year. And at the secondary level, we have mental health plans being developed in each of our secondary and more of our, I guess, our middle schools as well. And what that plan looks like in its creation would be that staff collectively look at and ask students and parents and community what they think are needed in each of our school sites. And so from there, with regard to those surveys, they actually come up with some action plans that are relevant and supportive of students and their mental health. And I think that maybe what Trustee Spilsbury is referring to would be that within those action plans, that some of those may include requests such as maybe Trustee Croft alluded to, which would be around How do you welcome back students? How do you bring connection to students? How do you have a comprehensive plan for that? So I think that the 70,000 that's been earmarked around mental health that Secretary Treasurer has earmarked there would be to continue with those plans. So it could be part and parcel of that, what I think Trustee Croft is referring to, but I'm not sure if it's more specific than that. So I'm not sure if I've answered that question, but I do know we have a comprehensive mental health plan in play that's part of this year's budget.
I can certainly, sorry, Mayor.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. I certainly see those pieces fitting together. I certainly wasn't aware that there was anything to do with events and community building in that. I don't know. I guess when I hear the words, there's a plan in place and it looks at mental health and all that kind of thing. That's great. I just hear over and over again, people are so hesitant to return to school and they no longer feel part of a community. And so if we have stuff that's actually doing that, that's not what I'm hearing. I mean, and the other thing is, I just wanted to make sure that it was, you know, ideas generated at the school level and that there was student voice in it. So I just thought of creating, and, you know, and in my thought, you wouldn't have to apply for it. It was just be some monies that were available. So to be honest, because the idea that there's a fund to apply to already, I had no idea. I didn't know there was anything in place that touched on some of those themes. So I don't know, Robin, am I overlapping? Because I don't want to reinvent the wheel here. Am I talking about the same thing you've already got or what?
Thank you for that comment. I'm hearing that you're thinking of a little bit of seed money that every school would have the opportunity of having that wouldn't be necessarily as connected with the comprehensive mental health plan, but something that they could use to welcome back their community next September. Kind of a one-time bit of money that wouldn't have to be part of the mental health action plan, but rather some seed money to bring back the community together in activities that of their choosing.
Yeah, of their choosing.
I think that's what I'm hearing. Some seed money for each school to action out in a way that they see fit that would welcome back the community.
That's more where I'm going. I don't see that in the plan that is so amazing and that both you and Candace have referenced. So, Mr. Chair, I need some help here. Can I rewrite that horrible motion, or do we defeat it, or where do we go from here?
I think we should defeat the motion. And I think you should make it just simple by just asking staff, is there a way we can augment the $70,000, whether add another $30,000 in the budget that would be made available to schools for that beautiful idea of, well, actually, when you think of what Brent Ranger and the staff at Discovery School are doing, I mean, if it helps that type of celebration occur with a little bit of seed money, that would be money well spent as far as I'm concerned. So there is a motion on the table, which is quite convoluted. Recommendation to defeat, and then we'll have a new motion. So all those
recommend to defeat my own motion.
Well, we're going to call the question. Just don't vote in favor of it. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Okay.
Try again.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'd like to move that staff look at augmenting the $70,000 for mental health in making.
Just this, everybody knows the intention of the motion. Just let's see what they come back with.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for that? Trustee Kimmler? Okay. Any discussion? So we're just asking staff to explore this opportunity, perhaps reach out to the schools and see what they would like to do and how they do it, not the details, but just in terms of the funding that may be made available to them. Trustee Spilsbury?
You're muted.
Thank you. Is this for this budget year? First of all, we're recommending to the board to have staff do this survey and bring it back. I assume we're not talking about this budget that we're currently wrestling with for September. Is that accurate?
I
I
believe
think-
the intention is it is for this September.
Okay, so can you just give me a process then and timeline as to when this information would come back and therefore be written into the budget?
I think it would have to come back that we're meeting again on Thursday and then again on Tuesday.
That's gonna be very difficult. To do it in that timeline.
Well,
Anquist, can you help here with the process?
well, before you do that, can I just finish one little
Oh, sorry.
comment? here?
Yeah.
My suggestion is that we look at this in the future, after this budget has passed. We can always bring a motion in after that. However, I refer to Jason.
We left the motion, I thought, pretty wide open. So if Jason comes back and says, I can't look at it in this budget, but we can do this instead, don't you have room to do that, Jason?
Oh, I think there's two routes here. Either staff look at this and look within existing budgets to see if there's something that already exists that can be purposed in this manner,
Mhm.
which may be that the current funding, the 72,000 that we received this year, isn't all expended. I'm actually not anticipating it will all be expended. So one venue is to look within what we already have. The other would be for the board or for the committee to make a recommendation now that we include a different dollar amount in the budget for this and bring that back in the budget proposal that comes forward on Thursday. So
Do you have room within the wording of this motion to choose whichever course of action best suits?
no, I wouldn't be bringing back another financial, I wouldn't be bringing any additional finances in based on this motion until a board considered what amount they would want to put into the budget. So
Can I ask,
sorry.
I'm just wondering what the problem, the answer we don't know is that, is there a need for it in the schools? Are the schools' budget short that they can't do this already? So every school has an operating budget and additional funds. So the question is, are they short and they are not capable of doing the intention behind this on their own without additional funding? Mr. Sandquist?
I think there are two potential sources for this that don't require additions to the budget, and we would just need to explore those and bring that back to you at a later time. And if we were wrong, if I'm wrong, then as Trustee Spilsbury has said, the board can always make a motion at a later date after the budget has been adopted. And budgets are dynamic; they change the day you've adopted it. And we could revisit with financials, but I would take this motion for us to go and look at what we currently have available and see if some of that can be repurposed.
Is that a fair ask of your time?
Well, it wouldn't be for Thursday.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be putting anything in the budget for Thursday. It would be something that we would bring back at a later date with a staff report.
Okay, that works for me. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sorting that through. You know, I was just sort of looking for some mad money, so I appreciate it. It made everybody mad trying to figure it out. I think Candace has her hand up.
Yes, I said Trustee Spilsbury.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear it. just so I'm clear on this motion, could you read it back to us, please, before we vote on it? Thank you.
It's at the Board Education and Business Committee recommends that the board ask staff to explore the opportunity. And I haven't quite got it all written out here because there was wording around the celebratory funds, and bring that information back to a future board meeting, I think is what I was crafting. Explore the idea of the extra celebratory funds and bring back information to a future board meeting.
That's a good summary. Is that satisfactory, Trustee Spilsbury?
Yes, thank you.
So calling the question on this very green banana, motion, sorry.
Oh, Barb wants to say something.
Right, Trustee DeGroot, no, sorry. Okay,
Yes.
all those in favor? Oh, sorry, just Trustee
No,
DeGroot, I'm
she
sorry.
does
I
want
thought
to say
you
something.
put your hands up saying
Yes,
no.
I'm trying to get your attention.
Okay.
I talk with my hands. What this motion is saying is that it goes to the board to approve it, to go to the staff.
Yes,
So this is not going to happen until September.
well,
We're
as-
already, right?
unless we make an amendment. Which I understand from Trustee Spilsbury or Mr. Sanquist, that is always or the board's discretion. Or it's all contained within the existing funds. Mr. Sanquist?
I think it's possible to bring a report back at the June board meeting.
Thank you. Trustee Kemmler?
I think it's fair to say, thank you for saying that, Jason, that the angst seems to be that it is a tremendously great idea to have welcome back parties. So if we can do it in June, so staff can be ready in September, so we can welcome our students with happiness, that would be fantastic. And I think that motion does seem to fill that.
Trustee Sanquist? Sorry, Trustee Spilsbury. Where'd that come from? Sorry.
Thank you. I just want to comment that we wouldn't necessarily ask each school to have their celebration in September. September is a very busy month in schools. And so I just want to lower our expectations so that we provide a direction, but not how to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Croft, are you closing debate on this matter?
Sure. Call the question.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Trustee Spilsbury is opposed, and Trustee Doman. Motion is carried. Any other items? Sorry, Trustee Doman?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay, we do have a motion that you have on your agenda package. Are you on your slideshow, Mr. Sanquist?
Mhm. Thank you. I'll come back to my share. So I do have a motion, and it is that the Board of Education and Business Committee directs staff to prepare the annual budget in accordance with the information presented and to bring back to the next meeting, which is in 2 days from now. And then that recommendation will go forward to the board.
Okay, is there a mover for that motion? Trustee Doman, Trustee Spilsbury. Yes, thank you, Goodman. Trustee Doman. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, I think I just have really quickly 2 more slides. Where are we at? What's next? We meet in 2 days, and I will try to get that bylaw out to the board late tomorrow. So you do have it a day ahead of time. I know I won't be able to make 48 hours as we've just moved it now. And then that hopefully the special BABC committee meeting will forward that budget to the board for consideration on May the 3rd, which would be next Tuesday. After that, the staffing processes will begin on May the 4th, and we are currently well underway in those calculations. And that concludes my budget report.
Thank you. Moving on to policies, there is none. Committees, highlights of the April 19th advisory committee meeting. You have that on your agenda, page 1822. Trustee Kemler, did you have anything to add to that?
I do not, no, I don't.
Okay, thank you
That
so
was
much.
pretty-
Okay, thank you very much for your engagement and patience. So motion to adjourn. Second, moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone.